Hey everyone, my name is Manish. I am going to talk about Pydantic and how to use it with LLMs. I'm 2 cake slices in and ready to roll, so if I get a little hyper, that's why. Before I start, this is pretty special to me. I used to co-organize the San Francisco Django meetup along with an individual named Rudy, and to be back in PyBay and the mothership feels great. So hope you guys enjoy this. Our goals today, I'll introduce myself, tell you a little bit why you should listen to me, and then talk about 2 libraries that we use at our startup and that I know plenty of friends who are using at their own companies, Pydantic and Pydantic AI. And then we'll walk through a production use case that we use it in our own company. Who am I? I started my career in the Obama White House. I used ASP.NET and C# and Microsoft SQL. You can get those booze in if you need to. After that, I worked at Morgan Stanley where I wrote a lot of Java and IBM SQL, more booze. And then I made it to the promised land and I started using Python and Django all the time exclusively, both at my previous startup, which was Swoops, and my newest startup, which is Cadbury. So I've been writing Python for over 10 years at this point, and using a lot of Django. What is Pydantic? Raise your hand if you have used Pydantic before. Cool, awesome. Shout out some alternatives to Pydantic. Data classes. I heard data classes. What else? Say again. Adders. Yep. Okay. Marshmallow is another one. Firefly. Firefly. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. So these are all different libraries that are really trying to solve the same problem, which is how do we efficiently and cleanly and provide a great developer DX around validating data, something we all have done in the past if we've worked in web, and that we're doing even more today as we're dealing with this new technology with LLMs. We'll also talk about how they help out at development time and at runtime. Some brief stats. I'm sure everybody does this analysis when they're evaluating some new piece of technology. What kind of traction and social proof does it have? I put those numbers up there. And for what it's worth, they're a startup as well. I believe the company behind it, their main product is Logfire, which I haven't used that much of. But the original author created Pydantic too. So all in all, good amount of traction, seems stable, seems like it has a positive future. Here is a hello world equivalent of Pydantic. We're defining a data model up top. Notice those type hints, so basic struct. Then we're initializing it, and then we're deserializing it at the very bottom. This is the pattern that all of us have used. As you know, I'm a big Django guy, so I've used a lot of the Django REST framework serializer capabilities. I've done this many times over, just with different syntax. But it's different here, right? We get the benefits of type hinting. For those of you who use MyPy, well, that should be all of us. Some of us aren't. We can benefit from type hinting, but also you'll get runtime errors if you send in a string where it expects a number or an integer and vice versa. How does it work? We don't really need to know this, but as an engineer, I think we all should take a little bit of time to understand what's going on underneath the hood. It is Pydantic relies upon a library called Pydantic core. This is written in Rust. And what Pydantic does is it creates a graph schema, which is what you see on the right, and it traverses it one by one. So here it would start at the user node, go to the ID node, see if the number being passed in is greater than 0, and then it would go back up. So it's a depth-first search sort of traversal into this graph schema. And that's how it works behind the scenes. It's created once upon literally when your import statements run, and then it's reused over and over again. The actual running of it is done through their Rust package that the Python package calls. I whipped up a very simple benchmark to compare how it does with its other competitors. And this is what I saw. Seems Marshmallow wins the race with loading data in, and Pydantic wins with taking data out. This is for 10,000 items, and the runs were done on my little MacBook Air. We learned about Pydantic. What is Pydantic AI? It's just a light abstraction over different calls that you make to an LLM is the basic way to put it. So we have our weather struct at the top there. We've seen that before. What's new is this agent class that we can initialize with an LLM model name specifically, and then a system prompt. And then you could run that agent and pass in the prompt here. Agent's a little bit of an overloaded word here and in life in general. If you've been to any enterprise conference recently, it's all agents. This is really just kind of wrapping and elegantly wrapping the request call that goes out to an LLM, but giving you like sensible defaults and like decisions around where to put your different prompts. We use Pydantic in the following way, and before I explain it, let me give you a little bit of context. There's a lot of manufacturing businesses out there that send out orders and have a lot of email dialogue with different suppliers. Say you're just buying a piece of wood. You're talking with this wood supplier. And we've ran into one manufacturing business that wants to save that email dialogue and put it in their ERP. They're using NetSuite, Oracle NetSuite. So it turns out this is the current process to do that for them. They have to save the email to the disk, to their own disk. They have to type the PO number in this tool called NetSuite. They have to click about a bunch of links, and then they finally need to attach the file. And so we came along, and this is kind of what our company does and how we use Pydantic, is we came along and we basically automated that flow. By creating a very light agent where they could forward the whole email to, and then we go into their tool, NetSuite in this case, and automatically attach that email dialogue to. And this is how we use Pydantic to achieve that. This is our input struct. We have many of them, but when that agent receives an email, this is what that system, I think we're using Postmark, SendGrid's like another one, they hit us with a webhook, which we then stuff into this struct. And that's where Pydantic is starting already. So if any of that data is off, it's going to blow up right then and there. This is a lot of text. Just maybe start with the top here first. We create our agent. We not only want to take in this email and attach it and go into their system and attach it, we also want to summarize it because this is like 10 messages back and forth. And so we make a call to an LLM to summarize that email chain, and Pydantic kind of facilitates that for us. I want to credit my colleague who helped me prepare this. His name is Evan. You should follow him on Twitter and GitHub and check out his website. He's amazing. I'll take on any questions or comments about this.
Thank you, Manish. Any questions? Oh. Behind over there.
So how does it actually work? Does it modify the prompt? Does it run a loop until it gets the right structure back? Like, what does it do?
If I heard the question right, how does it work? Specifically, our agent, or how we're using Pydantic?
I think the Pydantic part, like what do you do to convince the LLM to bring back that structure?
Yeah. So I mean, it starts here where if we receive a bunch, we receive a big email chain, this is where we make the call to OpenAI in this case to help us summarize it. And then we save that summary and give it back to the user. If we weren't using Pydantic here, we would have a bunch of request calls to OpenAI's API. And then we would have a bunch of validation logic that we'd be writing to make sure that what we're getting back from OpenAI is what we want. And we would have to elegantly stuff it into our own struct or our model, Django model or something like that.
The output type conversation summary on the screen there, that's a Pydantic base model, right?
Yes.
And that's what gets that structure into the LLM and verifies that that's going to be returned.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. That's absolutely right. Yep. One thing I'll add, you can create, are people familiar with function calls here? Have we made function calls to LLMs before? The classic example is you want to pull up the weather. Well, there's a weather API that you should use. So you create a function, a tool that reaches out to the weather API. Pydantic makes it very easy to, you can literally define your tool and put a little decorator on top of it. And then you could reference that in the prompt just as strings, as a string like get weather or something like that. So long as the function name is the same, Pydantic stitches the dots together and calls that tool when you need it.
Well, thank you, Manish. And yeah, if you want to talk more about it, find him. He'll be around.